Hi guys, welcome everyone. My name is Vera and today I'm going to show you how to paint our wonderful painting that you can see right here. It calls Through Yellow Leaves. And as you can see, originally I made it in a circle format, but today I'm going to be making it in a rectangle, more standard canvas format. So whatever you have prepared, whatever kind of surface you have prepared, whether it's circular or round or square or rectangular, it will definitely work. So it's completely up to you. The same as size, you can go with a bigger surface, you can go a smaller surface. That really is entirely up to you. And let's go through all our supplies here to make sure we have everything that we're going to need for today. Now, first thing that you're going to need is definitely a canvas. As I mentioned earlier, that can be anything that you personally would like to use, from big to small, from circle to square, or any other shape that you have. The next thing we're going to need the brushes. Ideally, you want to have a couple different brushes. You want to have something bigger, something smaller, or something medium, and something super, super small. So this brush, it's an important brush for this painting, and it has to be a small brush with a pointy tip. So ideally number 0, number 1, or number 2, something along those lines for our branches, so we can make really nice, fine lines of branches. And regardless of the size of your canvas and the shape, you're going to need this brush. Now, these two brushes vary based on your personal preference and on the size of your canvas. So for me, this is number 11 and this is number 5, but I wouldn't recommend going by numbers because sometimes number 11 and number 5 can look very different depending on which brand of brushes you go by. So I would just go by something bigger for the background and just like covering larger areas, and something medium to medium small for tree, so the tree leaves, the tree trunks, mountains, and the details on the water. So that's why I have this two. Bigger one for the background, smaller one for all the details. Now in my case they are square, however, you actually might find it more helpful to use a pointy brush like this. I find that a lot of people find this one easier to do leaves on the tree with. So if that's you, you're welcome to use this instead of square one. So totally up to you. So you can use honestly any brushes that you want or have. There's no particular ones that you have to have except for this one. This one is important. The rest, use whatever you have. And we're going to need a paper towel for sure, or reusable fabric cloth, whatever you prefer. And we're going to need some water, of course. So make sure you have all of that. And how we're going to do this, we're going to start, and paint. Almost forgot the most important part, we're going to need paint. So I'm going to be using student grade acrylic paint. This is a super, super basic paint, nothing fancy. Very standard paint that we use. So basically primary colors plus black and white. So yellow, red, blue, white, black. Now which red you use doesn't matter. Which yellow you use doesn't matter. As far as blue, it's definitely more ideal to use either phthalo blue or primary blue. The blue that I would discourage you from using is ultramarine. So just try to avoid ultramarine blue for this painting if you can, and try to use either phthalo or primary blue. And the reason why is because we're going to be mixing teal color, and ultramarine blue just doesn't do a good job mixing in a teal color. It just creates a muddy teal color, not what we're looking for, where phthalo blue and primary blue create much brighter teal color. So that's just a little tip on paint. The rest of the colors, any shade will do. If you prefer to use pre-mixed colors versus primary colors, you can do that too. And if that's the case, you might want to actually grab pre-mixed teal. You can see it in the middle of your painting there. You see that light color right in the middle. So something similar to that, like teal or aqua. And you might want to use orange as well, in addition to red and yellow. Or you might even replace your red with orange if it's like a vibrant orange. So just in case you prefer premix colors, you can use that as well. All right, and what are we gonna do and how are we gonna do this? We're gonna start with a backdrop. So we're gonna start working from our teal color and we're gonna move towards our blue for the sky, and then for the water we're gonna do the same. We're gonna start from our teal and then move towards the blue for the sides. Once our backdrop is complete, we're gonna work on our mountains and we're gonna make them from blue and black with some white highlights. And then we're going to move on to our trees. We're going to position our tree trunks. We're going to give them a couple minutes to dry, and then we're going to position our leaves. And if needed, we're going to position a couple more not tree trunks, branches sticking out from places, and just finish up with some white highlights. So what we're going to need right now is grab the biggest brush that you want to be using and dip that in the water. Oh, and guys, before we do that, before we actually move to creating part of this project, just remember this is a video tutorial, so if you need to take extra time, it's designed for you to pause it. It's not designed for you to keep up with my speed or do it exactly when I do it. It's designed for you to pause it, so pause as many times as needed. Give yourself enough time, and then only whenever you're ready, you can just resume the video and continue painting with me. And especially after this video premieres right now, it's gonna stay on our YouTube forever. So pretty much you can come back anytime if something came up or you're just feeling like you're not feeling it today. Or I don't know, you get interrupted by whatever happens in your life and then you can't finish it right away. You can always come back and do it another day. That's totally fine. It's gonna be right here. So don't push yourself, do it at your own, go at your own speed, do it at your own comfort, and make sure you really enjoy the process because that's the most important thing. All right, so let's dip our brush in the water. And I'm gonna start by scooping some white on the side. Then to that, I'm gonna add a little bit of blue. I'm gonna mix them up first to create a nice light blue. Just white and blue. And always start with a base of white because we're aiming to have a super light color. And then once you feel like you have the right shade of blue, start adding yellow little by little. So add a little bit of yellow, mix it up, then if needed add a little more yellow, and so on. So just continue adding yellow little by little until you arrive at the right color. It should look like a light teal, like light aqua. It almost could look like mint in a way even, and that is still okay. So somewhere on that minty, teal, aqua kind of shade. So for me, this is perfect. I love this color. It looks a little bit different from what you see in the image because when I was taking the photo of this, I was using my phone, and my phone camera is just generally a bit better than the webcam that I'm using for the videos. Plus, it was taken outside on a bright day, when today, even though I am actually sitting by the window right now, so it is a natural light, it's quite gloomy outside. So, you know, the shades may vary, and your shades may vary based on the brand of the paint that you use as well. But yeah, somewhere on the teal side. And I'm going to start by adding it. So first of all, I'm actually going to add a line. Oh, by the way, guys, if you're using a square canvas, you can go horizontal or you can go vertical. So it is completely up to you. If you go vertical, you're going to end up with having a little bit more trees, but a little bit less mountains. If you go horizontal, you're going to go a bit more mountains, and then maybe a little bit less sky. But it's your call. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify where the bottom of my sky is and the beginning of water. So I would say somewhere right here is going to be the bottom of my sky and the beginning of my water. And then from here, I'm going to start adding like a half circle in teal and use quite a bit of paint. So be generous with your paint, I would say here. Don't use just a little bit, use a good amount because you don't want this to dry too fast. You want it to stay wet for some time. It doesn't mean you have to like blob it on in 1/4 inch thickness, but just don't use too little either. Be mindful of how much paint you use. make sure it's um, enough paint for it to stay wet for the next little bit. Alright, so I added quite a bit of it. I think this is a good amount. Now I'm going to move to my next color. I'm going to wash off my brush. My next color is going to be blue, so it's going to be like a medium blue. So again, I'm going to start with white, but this time I'm just going to add more blue to it to make like a medium blue. Just something like this. And with this color, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to color in the remainings of my canvas. And then as soon as I've done that, I'm going to blend my teal into my blue. And this has to be done fast before both of the colors dry. It has to be done on wet. So what I'm going to do, without refilling my brush, I'm just going to start going over that line where two colors connect. And then I'm going to start going in. So not refilling my brush with paint, just go in and continue doing that, going on the area that's covered with teal. Now you see my brush is leaving no mark anymore because it's fully empty of my blue and actually is dirty with teal now. So now I'm going to continue doing that, but towards the opposite direction. So I'm going to continue doing the same brush stroke, but instead of going towards the teal, I'm going to go towards the blue. And I'm going to bring a little bit of that teal that's on my brush now into my blue. And then I'm going to continue going back and forth doing that. Once my brush gets dirty with blue, I'm going to bring it into my teal. And then once it starts getting dirty with teal, I'm going to bring it into my blue. So just continue doing that back and forth until you have a nice smooth transition between your teal and your blue. This is pretty much what we're looking for, just a smooth transition. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be smooth. And if you want to take this a step further, you can make even a little bit of a darker blue. So just add a little bit more dark blue and go a little bit closer to your edges here. You see? So because I'm using more of a square format, you don't see it all around, you just see it here. But if it was circle, it would be going all around. And if you guys are using canvas that has the edge, it's always a good idea to also bring the paint onto the edge of your canvas. But again, this is not entirely necessary, it's not a part of the painting, but I personally like it. It is my personal preference because what I don't like, and I have a pet peeve, I really hate it, is unfinished edge. I find it just ruins the look for me personally. So I really like to have my edges painted in the end of the day, whether I paint them as I go, like right now, or I do them later once I'm done. Doesn't matter. I just like having them done. So in this case, because there's not like a lot of mixing or a lot of work, I feel like it's very manageable to do them right away. But also, if this is too much for you or it's just too stressful or any other reason you don't want to do it right away as you go, you can always do it once we're done. So you can, just don't worry about it now. And whenever you finish the painting, you can go back to your edges and finish them then. I've done that many times and it's totally fine. So you choose how you want to go about this. I'll do them right away. Alright, so that's my top. And now I'm going to work on my water. So I'm going to wash my brush and I'm going to go back to my teal. I still have a little bit of it left, but if you don't, make it again, and it doesn't have to be the exact same teal that we used on top. As long as it's a similar color, it's all good. So I'm going to take a bit of that color and I'm going to add my water. I'm not going to do it right in the middle. I'm going to do it slightly towards the side. So somewhere right here. I actually may need to make a little bit more of my color. It looks like I'm running low on it. Make a little bit more. And again, I'll do my edge right away, so wherever it comes to contact with the edge, I'm just going to paint the edge too. Alright, now I'm going to go back to the same glue I used, so just some sort of medium glue. And I'll flick it from the edge in towards my teal. This here just going to bring it a little bit into my teal as well. Great, and now I'm going to do the same thing towards from the other side towards the middle. Alright, that's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to do my edges with this color too. Alright, that's a really nice base right here. So now we're going to move on to our mountains, and I'm going to make the base color for my mountains. So I'm going to go with darker blue, and it's still going to start with white, but it just needs a little bit of white and blue. Now we're going to go pretty dark with that, and I'm going to actually add a smidge of red. So not a lot, I'm not trying to make it a full-on purple, but I do want to give it like an undertone. You see it's getting a bit more purple as I keep adding my red little by little. So that's what I want. I'm looking for that undertone of purple. If you want to, you could go full on purple. It's just not something I want to do. I want to go more like blue with an undertone of purple. And with this color, I'm going to paint my mountains. So my mountains are going to meet somewhere right here. So again, I'm going to indicate that as my lowest spot. And then from here, I'm going to bring one mountain On this side, you can make it any shape you wanted it to be. And I'm going to color it in right away. And then I'm going to bring my second mountain on the other side. And again, I'm going to make a bit more paint because I have a tendency not making enough paint, and I'm okay with it. I'm happy to remake it versus, making too much and just wasting. I am totally fine with mixing a couple times. So I'm going to add my second mountain. It's going to be a bit lower. And of course, if you're going towards, if you're going to your edges, make sure you bring them to your edge. If you're painting your edges, of course. If you're not doing your edges, you don't have to do that. Alright. And now with the same color, I'm going to bring some from the edge in. And what I'm going to be using here is I'm going to be using the top edge of my brush. You see how my brush, even though it's wide, when I use the top edge, it gives me a really nice fine line. And depending how much I push on it, it can get really fine, or it can get a little bit thicker if I push on it harder. So really, this brush gives me the ability to do so many lines with all the same edge. It just really depends on how much I push on my brush, the width of my brush stroke. So that's why I like using the top edge of the square brush, but you can use a pointy brush, use just the tip of it for finer lines, or you can just go with smaller brush for this too. It really is up to you, but I'm going to continue with my brush. Just going to use the top edge this time, so I can get some lines that are a little bit finer. And I'm going to continue adding them again from the edge in. So we need to cover this edge closer to the edge of the canvas, pretty solid. And then we're just going to flick it towards the middle, ideally with the finer lines. And it doesn't have to be just one line. You can do combinations of lines. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing the combinations of lines. So something like that. You see, it gradually gets more and more teal and kind of blends into teal, but also kind of maintains this line. So the majority of blue stays here, majority of teal stays somewhere in the middle, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side too. And always flick from the outside towards the inside. Never flick from inside towards the outside. And of course the edges, I'm just going to paint with this color too. Oops. Alright, then while it's still wet, ideally, I mean if it's dry it's not a big deal, but ideally you want to do this on a wet, you can just wash off your brush and grab some black. And with some black, we're going to add a bit of it right here where the water meets our mountains. And then we're going to add it on some mountains, more like dry brush it on, so don't use too much of it, and just add a texture. Don't go all the way to the mountain. You want the top to stay quite blue. You're just adding like the rocky texture to it in a way, but also darkening it up towards the bottom. And you use not a lot of paint, so it sort of blends and creates a mid-shade, something between black and dark blue. Alright. And then we're going to add a bit of black the same way that we did with our blues from the sides. So I'm going to go right here. I'm going to go quite close to top on the top. And then I'm going to scale back as I go lower. I'm going to stop bringing that close to the middle. You see? I'm not really bringing it too close. The same on this side too. And of course, wherever you went to the edge, you bring it over the edge too. If you are doing the edge. If not, just leave it alone. Alright, and the only other colors that I have left here is white. And you can do white with the same brush, or you can switch to something smaller. For me personally, I'm going to go a little smaller. So I'm going to wash this large brush, put it aside, and I'm going to dip in the water my smaller brush. I'm going to take a little bit of white again. This is great if your mountain's just still a little bit wet, but if not, no big deal. And I'm just going to add a little bit of it, almost like dry brushing it on. So if your mountains are still super wet, you can use a bit more paint because it's going to blend anyway, right? But if your mountains are already super dry, make sure you only use a little bit because then you want a dry brush so it looks almost blended into your blue. So yeah, go based on what your painting needs. So again, if it's fully wet, you can use a bit more and have it blend. If it's fully dry, then just dry brush with a minimum amount of paint. Or what you could even do, you can make the blue again and just add a little bit of blue there. So then when you add white, it blends. You see, I love it in the mountains, but I also created a nice texture. Great, and now with washing my brush, I need to notice whenever my brush gets dirty, I wash it, I dab it off with my paper towel, and then I refill it with paint. So with doing that, I'm going to move to my water, and again, using the top edge of my small square brush, I'm going to start adding smaller lines. You can actually use, if you don't have a good square brush that you prefer to use, you can use a medium brush. of any shape, but you can also use small brush. It will give you very similar results. I'm going to start adding a little flicks in the middle, all horizontal, with a goal to have a bit more white somewhere around here to create like a little path, and a bit less going towards the edges. So you can start by adding the area that you would like to be the thickest. This added area that I would like to be the whitest, the thickest, the shiniest, I guess, most reflective. Now I'm going to start adding a bit of white a bit further into the sides. I try to do less and maybe not as saturated. So maybe a little less brush strokes, or maybe just have them less visible using less paint. Maybe I'll even go a little bit more. Oh, beautiful. Our backdrop is done. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add our tree trunks and branches, and then I'm going to let them dry up a little bit so we can position our leaves. So I'm going to start with tree trunks here, and I'm going to use the same brush. But you're welcome to use anything medium to medium small, I would say. I'm just going to start by positioning the main tree trunk, or at least the direction of where it's going to go. So let's say this one is going to go somewhere like right here. Sorry guys. Sorry guys. Scammers, scammers, scammers. A lot of scam calls lately. People pretending to be other people. People pretending to be banks. People pretending to be DHL, Amazon. It's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Alright, so right here is where I'm going to position it. But you see just like one line. This is just to indicate the direction. And now I'm going to actually work it into making it into a tree trunk. And A, it's going to be thicker. B, I'm going to make it slightly different shape. So tree trunks, they need to be a little bit thicker where they grow from, and a little bit thinner on the other end, so on top. So make sure you translate that well onto your painting. Then it doesn't have to be a dramatic difference, but you always want your tree trunk to be at least just a little touch thicker where it grows from versus where it's what it's going towards. So like that. And again, if you did your, you just then extend your tree trunk onto your edges. that's my tree trunk number 1. And then I'm going to make my tree trunk number 2. So let's put it right here. And again, you can position yours differently. It doesn't matter. Wherever you position them, that's where it's going to be. And then just work on it and turn it into a tree trunk. Alright, I think this is good for my tree trunks. I feel quite satisfied with them. And now I'm going to start adding my branches. So some branches are going to be thicker, some branches are going to be thinner. I'm going to always start with thicker branches. And I think with the branches, 2 things actually. One, they're always going to be thicker where they grow from and thinner on the end. So the same thing that with trees, they're always thicker where they grow from, thinner on the end. Same thing with the branches, wherever they grow from, so closer to tree trunk, they're going to be thicker. And second thing, you're always going to start them from the tree trunk and bring them out. Never start from the other way around and bring them in, because wherever you're going to start, it's going to be the thickest point. So always from the tree trunk out. And you can switch to a smaller brush, or you can continue using medium or the top edge of medium. For me, it's going to be the top edge of medium. And I'm going to push a little bit harder where I start, and then I'm slowly going to let it go to create a finer lines. You see, and you can practice that. This really, creating this from one line comes with a lot of practice. So I would say try using different brushes and see which one works better for you specifically for this step. And then use that one. I would say the easiest would be a small brush, because you can always go make it smaller first and then just go a couple times over the bottom part to make it thicker. Because once you make it, if you make it too thick up front, you cannot take it back, right, and make it thinner. So it's always good to make it maybe either just right or a little bit on the thinner side first, so you can make it thicker if needed. Alright, and now let's add larger branches on this tree. And I'm even going to bring one just from the bottom, assuming that this tree goes down a little bit further and we just can't see what's past that. Alright, so I added some large branches and now the rest are going to be small branches. Oh, I think I actually forgot. Yes, okay, let's extend this tree trunk first. And then I'm going to add a couple, so I'm going to wash my brush, dab it off on a paper towel, make sure it's nice and clean, and then I'm going to grab my small one. I'm going to water down my black for this because I find that it is, no matter how good your brush is, if your paint is too thick, it's never going to give you a nice fine lines. So make sure your paint is actually liquid enough for you to create a nice long and flowy and fine lines. And with this, I'm going to add a couple smaller branches. Again, all of them are going to be coming out from the tree trunk, and larger branches always from the whatever they grow from out. And it really is less is more when it comes to branches, so don't feel pressure to create lots of them. Just a few is more than enough, and then if you ever feel like it wasn't enough, you can always add more too. You don't have to decide right now. Just add a few and then you can always add more if needed. Alright, and guys, as far as the white highlights, you can do them now or later. I feel like we might as well do them now. I don't see why not. So I'm going to grab my small brush, just a little bit of white paint, and I'm going to highlight the side that's closer to the middle. So right side here and left side here. I'm just going to add a little couple brush strokes to mimic a tree bark. They're not going to be a full-on solid line. Some of them are going to be longer, some of them are going to be shorter. And you can do a couple layers of that too. Alright, now add some on this side. And if you choose it's still wet and it blends, that's actually a good thing. So don't be afraid of that. That's why I'm thinking it might be even better to do it right away. But also you can do this once they dry too. It's not, it's not one way or the other. Either will do. And you see what that does? It really nicely highlighted our trees and kind of separated them from the background. So now we can actually see our trees better. I actually might add even a little bit more to this one right here. Oh yeah, this is good. So guys, what I'm gonna do now is well, first of all, I'm gonna wash my hairbrush, dab it off on a paper towel, and I'll put it aside. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pause this video for maybe a good 5 minutes to let my tree trunks dry up a little bit, and then as soon as they are dry, I'm gonna resume this video and continue showing you how to paint our yellow leaves here. So if your paint is still super wet and your tree trunks are super wet, I would say do the same. Just pause this video and let them dry up a little bit before moving forward, or you can continue watching it just so you know what happens. And then after you finish watching this, your trees are probably going to be dry, so you can move on to the painting part and continue painting. But yeah, I will do that, and it's going to feel like a second to you, so I will see you in 1 second. Alright guys, my painting is dry, so I'm going to continue and show you how to do our orangey yellow leaves. So again, here's where you're welcome to use either the same brush, so something medium to medium small, square, or you can use something like this. I know a lot of people would prefer this one, and generally I actually personally think this one can be a better option as well. So we're going to start with darker color. So we're going to make and by darker I don't mean actual very dark color. I would say like an orangey yellow versus just, golden yellow. So I'm going to scoop some white on the side, then I'm going to add a generous amount of yellow and just a little bit of red. So do you see it's like orange, but it's not like on the redder side, it's more on a yellow side, I would say. And with this, I'm going to start making my piles of leaves. So how I'm going to do them, I'm going to try to keep those groups of leaves horizontal. So I'm going to start dabbing, but notice the shade. Do you see it's a little bit fluffier in the middle? And then it has almost like a pointy ends. You see? So I'm going to do this kind of groups of dabs. And some of them are going to be bigger, some of them are going to be smaller, some of them are going to merge in one another, some of them are going to be more separated. So a variety of sizes, shapes in a way, blended, not blended, and so on. Again, if you're doing your edges, feel free to bring them onto the edge as well. All right, so that's my first color. Now for the second color, I'm gonna go with something lighter. So I'm gonna make a shade, but of orangey yellow, but it's gonna be more yellowy and a little lighter. So if you still have a bit of the same color, you can just add yellow and white to it. If you don't have the same color, you can make from scratch, but this time just add way less red to it than the previous time. So this I think is the color. You still see, still has like an orangey undertone in comparison to pure yellow. It's not a pure yellow, it still has like an orangey undertone, but it's much yellower. And we're going to add second layer, but in this color, and we're not going to color the entire first layer. We're just going to add this one a little bit higher up in the middle, so like this. You see, you can still see some of my first layer. Oh, great. And then I want to add a little bit of a darker orange. So I'm going to just use some red and yellow, mix them up. I'm not even going to add any white to it. And using just a little bit of that, I'm going to add a smidge of it, but on a lower part. So do you see where our first layer was? On that lower part, just a smidge of this every now and then. So it doesn't even have to go everywhere. You can choose a couple ones and add it there, or you can add it everywhere. It really is completely up to you how much you like this color and how much you want to have. And then the only color that will be left for me is white. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of white and I'm going to add highlights. And just like a little smidge of that. Mostly on the lightest part of my trees. I'm going to add a couple flyaway leaves too. All right. And this is pretty much it. Except, remember I told you that we can add a bit more of couple more little branches if you wanted to in the end. So what that would look like, if you want to, you can grab a small brush, a little bit of black paint, and you can just add a couple little branches sticking out from the leaves. It's totally up to you if you want to add that at all or not, but it is always an option that you could do right now. Do you see? You can add a couple, or you can just not add them. Either is fine. And then guys, last thing that you have to do is sign it. So choose a good spot and put your name or your initials or your signature, so anything that you would prefer. And after that, we are officially done. I hope you enjoyed painting with me. I would love to see how they turned out. If you would like to share your results, and you can do that in our Facebook group, specifically dedicated to people sharing their results from our tutorials. So if you would like to share, please take a photo and see the Facebook group in the description of this video. It's right there. Please share. Would love to see it, but also if you're shy and you would rather not, that's totally fine. We don't want to pressure you into anything. If you guys haven't subscribed to our channel yet, please do that. We have a lot of videos that are coming up, but we also have quite a library of videos that we have already uploaded. So feel free to check this out. We have a variety of mediums, anywhere from acrylic, watercolor, pencil drawings, all kinds of stuff really. And more is coming every week. So feel free to like and subscribe. And if you really enjoyed this one and you want to say thank you by tipping me, you can always do that. And tips do help us to create more videos just like this one for you guys. So if you want to do that, there's a PayPal link in the description of this video. You can use that. And many thanks to those who've already supported us and tipped even before this video started in advance in support for this event. Thank you very much, guys. Well, that's it for me for today, and I will see you at our next tutorial. Bye, guys.